Welcome athletes, coaches, athletic directors, and parents to a new year of school sports. My name is Rick Thiessen and I am president of BC School Sports. As I begin my term as president, the landscape for school sports is very different. This is likely to be a year unlike any other as the province navigates its way through a pandemic along with the rest of the country and the world. As we look forward to at least some level of athletics in the 2020-2021 school year, there are still so many unknowns. It has been said that people really don't understand the value of a person, object, or activity until it's taken away from them. BC is already finding out what school sports really means to our culture and environment in our schools. Obviously, student and staff health must supersede involvement in school-based athletics, but the emotional and mental toll endured by the absence of a full sports program in the province will be enormous. Although inter-school competition is restricted at present, BC School Sports staff are still working daily to assist the membership through this difficult period. Staff are in the office to answer your inquiries Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The BCSS Board of Directors have opted to assess only 60% of the annual membership fees at the time of opt-in and will evaluate throughout the year if any portion of the remaining 40% should be assessed. We felt it was critical to ensure that BCSS remains operational and available to support our schools. I remind you that BCSS is our entity to support as member schools. We are the owners, and a sense of shared responsibility and over 50 years of service to our membership will be more than enough to find each of our schools will renew their membership to BCSS as we work on your behalf to provide advanced resources and open different avenues for school sport during this time. Some of the initiatives BCSS staff are currently working on for our member schools include virtual events. BCSS staff will be announcing details on some virtual events that they're planning in the coming weeks. Scholarship opportunities. Last year, BCSS provided over $20,000 in scholarships and is happy to announce they will continue to offer these scholarships again this year to graduating student athletes at our member schools. And thirdly, enhanced AD professional development through the CIAAA. On Saturday, November 7th, the BCSS Board of Directors and staff will be hosting a virtual question and answer session on the governance proposal that was first introduced to the membership back in February. While the original intent was for it to be voted on at the spring 2020 AGM, the board opted not to bring it forward at that time as they felt that it required a proper forum of discussion, which we didn't feel could happen with the closure of schools due to COVID-19. Our hope is that this session can provide the necessary discussions prior to the proposal being brought to a vote at the 2021 AGM. We strongly recommend that you review the proposal, which is posted on the BC School Sports website and will also be recirculated with the meeting invitation. The BCSS Board of Directors appreciates the support and patience of our member schools as we work towards a safe return of school sport. I will now turn this update over to Jordan Abney, Executive Director of BC School Sports, who will provide you with other important news and updates.
Thanks, Rick. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jordan Abney. I'm the Executive Director for BC School Sports. Hopefully most of you saw that yesterday we put out the second version, or version 2.0, of our BC School Sports Return to School Sport Plan. The first version was sent out in early September before school started, and we made some minor updates to version 2 that was released yesterday. We're still restricted to cohort-based activities, meaning all our school sport activities must predominantly be done by students in the same educational cohort. However, through working with public health officials and discussions we've had over the last number of weeks, there were a couple tweaks we were able to make. We are now able to share equipment between cohorts without it being disinfected. So previously there was a restriction on the sharing of equipment and it basically required it to be disinfected. That is no longer the case. So you can have multiple cohorts using the same equipment without it being disinfected. The catch here is obviously the students in different educational cohorts must still maintain strict physical distancing at all times. A couple other tweaks include coaches can now come into contact with equipment Again, special attention to hand hygiene, but coaches can contact equipment to help facilitate drills. So for example, a volleyball coach is able to toss balls or hit down balls or simulate attacks in a setting such as a volleyball practice. Again, coaches must maintain physical distance and coaches should be wearing masks at all times. Lastly is virtual competition. We had some questions specifically about cross country and aquatics being individual sports, about if the ban was sort of on all competition, and we've received okay to go ahead with virtual competition, which is obviously a heavily modified form, but we've seen some local associations start to plan a course where then a school and their various cohorts may go on a specific day and run the same course on different days. So that is permitted. The big thing with virtual competition is you can't have any student athletes head-to-head from different cohorts. So ideally, you're on a course, whether it's the same course or different course, on different days, and in aquatics environments, you're obviously in a pool, but you're not going to the pool at the same time. It might be on your own time or as a team within your school, broken out into those cohorts, but it's not a multi-school event. It's you doing it and then submitting your times or whatever it might be back to the coordinator. So virtual competition is permitted now. We've heard lots of frustration, anger, some confusion over the differences and the inequities that are permitted with school sport currently and those that are permitted in the club and community environment. We hear you. We have got that message. We share in your frustration. We've been working really hard with government officials to help them understand the potential impact on school sport, and we actually just had a meeting this week with representatives from health, education, and sport, and it was a productive meeting, and we are still moving forward in the hopes of reintroducing some inter-school sport in the not too distant future. Of course, the election announcement this week will probably delay that a little bit, but we continue to have those dialogues and move that discussion forward with that intention. Couple things from BC School Sports we'd like to announce. The first is the BC School Sports Cross Country Pandemic Challenge. So as a way to try and encourage participation and engagement, keep school sport relevant, we've created a pandemic challenge. Some will take it as a race, and we encourage those that want to try and race for a best time to do so. But there'll be two distances. One will be a 3-kilometer distance and one will be a 5.5-kilometer distance. They're both open to whichever student athletes, or any students really, in grades 8 to 12 in your schools. The challenge will begin on October 21st and run through November 4th. So students can run that distance at any point during that time, and then we ask the school to calculate or submit the time. We provide a template for that submission, and we're going to see which schools in each of the tiers have the most participation. So again, two different distances. They can pick. Student athletes can run the distances multiple times in that window, but they only can have one submission. So it's not a how many miles did you accumulate. It's more so what is the best time for that student athlete, hoping to get as many student athletes as possible. We really encourage you to try and get student athletes from multiple different sports, not just your traditional cross-country runners, and even those students that may not traditionally participate in school sport as a way to engage them. The second thing that BC School Sports wants to announce is the esports trial season. Some of you will recall that we had planned on doing a short trial of esports last spring, but like everything else, that was canceled as the pandemic made its way through BC. So we are happy to announce that it's not an official sport, it's not even a demonstration season, but we are sort of dipping our toe in that esports world, as it is a very fast-growing world. And we are going to have a 6 to 8 week trial season for any of the member schools to participate in. The season will roughly run coming out of the Thanksgiving weekend for 6 to 8 weeks following that. There'll be more information being distributed in the next 7 to 10 days, so keep your eyes open for that. I want to take this chance to remind everybody that the membership did pass a motion last year to mandate concussion training for all coaches and supervisors of school sport. That means everybody that's involved in the supervision and delivery of school sport, coaches, assistant coaches, teacher sponsors, student managers, must complete the course prior to any school sport activities taking place. The course is the Concussion Awareness Training Tool. It takes approximately 30 minutes to complete, and it is totally free of charge. The certification is good for 2 years from the date of completion, and it's important to note that other courses or certifications do not meet the requirements for our policy. We do not require you to send us the certificate, but your AD or administrator might. So as an athletic director, make sure you're talking to your coaches, assistant coaches, teacher sponsors to ensure that they're all completing this prior to stepping on the field of play with their student athletes. Next one is the fall meeting. Traditionally, we have a joint council, which is a smaller group of commissioners and association presidents. It's going to be changed a little bit this year. The board has decided to have a member-wide Q&A session around the governance proposal. Some of you will remember that last year the governance proposal that came out in February was slated to come to the annual general meeting. With the postponement of that and the moving it to a virtual forum, and really the closing of schools that didn't allow for proper discussion to happen, the board made the decision to put that on hold. So the board is bringing this back with the intention of bringing it forward to the membership at some point this year. And so on November 7th, that's a Saturday, from 10 a.m. to noon, every school is invited to have a representative in attendance at this virtual meeting. And it's a chance for just sort of bring it forward, ask questions, and get some answers and clarity around some of the ins and outs of the proposal. So we look forward to seeing representatives from every school on November 7th from 10 a.m. to noon, and there'll be information about how to register for that meeting coming out in the coming days. The staff here in the office are really happy to be back and working to serve you. We're available 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, to answer your questions. If there's any interpretation regarding the return to school sport plan or anything else that we can do to help make this really unprecedented time a little bit easier, please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, we will look forward to bringing you more information in the coming weeks and months. Stay safe, take care.